Hey, it's Dustin Angel at Archbold Biological Station. I'm out in the woods today searching for the remains of the Sherman Sawmill, which was once here in a town called Hikoria. Hikoria doesn't exist anymore. All you see today is a street sign with that name. Much of the land from the town is actually now part of Archbold Biological Station. So I'm going to search out here and see if I can find the old mill from the 1930s and tell you this really interesting story. If you had visited here in the early 1900s, you'd have seen just a handful of settlers and Seminoles moving through the area. The settlers called the area Redlands based on the color of the sand dug up by the gopher tortoises. But when the railroad came in the 19-teens, it was renamed Hikoria based on the scrub hickory. Even throughout the 1920s, there weren't that many people living here, but that would soon change. Here it is! I found the mill! Of course, the buildings are gone, but this is what remains. Concrete blocks and pieces of metal. Let's take a closer look. This one looks like it's maybe 3 feet tall, and today it has a whole bunch of resurrection fern on the top here. It's winter, it's the dry season right now, so they're kind of curled up, but if it rained out here, these would open and spring back, look like they were springing back to life. When you're walking around out here, you have to really use your eyes to try to spot evidence of the old sawmill. For example, it seems like I'm walking on a little hill right here, but this kind of topography is not natural for this part of Florida. And if you start to take a closer look, you'll realize it is actually a pile of old bricks. Check this out behind me. This is the biggest piece that's left from the old mill. These concrete slabs, the one behind me there is taller than I am. I really wish I knew what the different parts of this went to. In the fall of 1928, the newspaper announced that a sawmill was coming to Hikoria. Just a year later, the town had gone from around 100 people or so to nearly 1,000. We haven't done any extensive archaeological work out here, but one of our volunteers, Bill Parkin, did come out with a GPS, and he's been trying to map out this whole system of concrete foundations. You can see from this map that this really was a town. There's a section of houses for the white families. On the other side of the railroad, houses for the black families. And there were a school for each one of those communities as well. So what about the nature around here? What happened when the sawmill came in? Well, as you can see behind me, we've got pine trees all over the place here today. The slash pines have taken back over. But when the sawmill was here, they logged a lot of trees, around 100,000 acres of land in Highlands County. And the way that they did it is they would build temporary railroads. They could build or dismantle around 1 mile of tracks each day. And they went in all directions from here. Well, what happened to the town of Hikoria? How come it's not really here anymore? When the mill closed in 1935, the workers went with it, just like they had come with it in the first place. That's how these mill towns worked. They'd go to the area, set up shop, they'd bring their workforce with them, hundreds and hundreds of people, then they would clear the whole forest and then move on. Sherman ran sawmills like the one here at Hikoria and other parts of the state too. His company logged about 1 million acres of pine trees from our state. At the time, they weren't thinking about sustainability and weren't replanting the trees. Later in life, he did look back with regret on what his company had done. And I want to read you his quote because I think it's pretty powerful. "Man must pay his part in creating the scars of civilization. Ours is a big country, a giant well of natural resources, but we fail to take warning. Man can dip often enough into the vat of plenty and before long vainly will scrape the bottom with a clattering cup held in a shaking hand. I don't pretend that I have not been guilty. I have, and I'm just one of thousands throughout these United States who thought only in terms of the vastness of our country, who marveled at the apparently unlimited supply of natural resources. But we were short-sighted. No man has the moral right to devastate natural resources which might be needed by future generations. Without careful planning, we will soon be bogged down in a morass of our own making.